On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Loveless by My Bloody Valentine, the band, not the movie.
Right.
And they're also a shoegaze band and not an angsty metalcore band.
Right.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
And we're two professional broadcasters. We love metal. We like to talk about it. Today,
We're not talking about metal.
yeah, we're not talking about metal, although there are bands in this genre that get kind of close, a little adjacent at times. It is a very noisy record, but not metal.
Intentionally noisy.
Yeah, and decidedly not metal.
Yeah, good thing that it didn't take him very long to make the album.
Yeah, it was super short.
Super short.
Hardly
any time at all passed between renting the studio and
hardly any time at all passed between the making of this last album and the making of their most recent album.
Barely.
Yeah, the band launched into a super long and successful career off the back of this extremely well-reviewed album. They were their record company's golden goose.
And then what?
Yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later. The story of My Bloody Valentine is, you're probably a lot more well-versed in it than me, because
Maybe a little bit. Yeah. I mean, I haven't dug a whole lot.
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't do that. I don't know why I don't do that. I don't look it up.
I need to do it more.
I don't fanboy stuff.
But I, especially for the purposes of this podcast, I need to do it more. But
sure.
I read a little bit about sort of the turmoil this album caused, and we'll get into that a little bit later. First, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I got a bug in my eye on the way here.
Yeah,
I was telling you that.
You mentioned that.
It's the story of the hour. Yeah, no, I had my visor up on my helmet, and so of course, because I like the wind in my face.
Yeah,
that's part of the joy of riding a motorbike. But bug,
bug
right there in my eye.
Why not? You could wear sunglasses underneath the visor.
I've tried doing that, and it's very constrictive because it gets the helmet squishes down on the glasses and presses them into my head.
You need very thin profile sunglasses. Then.
Maybe.
I'm sure you could find a pair that would fit under there.
Maybe some of those cataract glasses.
There you go.
That they give for patients.
Maybe you should have a slightly smaller head.
There you go. I'll shrink my head.
Yeah, have you tried that? I'm sure you could do it.
I could do it. It's been done.
I mean, you visited a shrink more than once. That's what they do, right?
Yeah, I came out of there one time and my head was pea size.
Yeah.
Sitting on top of my neck.
You're like one of the Koopas in the Mario Brothers movies.
Yeah.
The one with Dennis Hopper in it.
Compared
to all the other Mario, compared to all the other Mario Brothers studio films,
I forgot Dennis Hopper was in that movie.
Yeah, he was. Well, he wasn't Bowser. He was King Koopa.
Right.
His name was not Bowser yet, as far as I know.
No,
he was King Koopa for some reason.
Oh man, when he was lying on his deathbed, he was thinking, "Man, I wish we'd have made a sequel to."
Is Dennis Hopper dead?
Yeah. Oh, he's dead. Yeah.
When did Dennis Hopper die?
He's been dead a while. He's been dead a few years. Dennis Hopper.
I don't remember Dennis Hopper having died.
DennisHopper. That's how
you said PP.
PP. That's an island off of Canada.
Yeah. Today I learned there is an island off the coast of Newfoundland called PP Island.
PP Island.
And it is spelled exactly right.
It is
P-E-E Island. It's amazing.
It's adjacent to Dookie Island.
They could have called it Penn Island.
Penn.
All right, when did Dennis Hopper...
2010.
2010.
He's been dead 9 years.
It's been that long?
Yeah.
I don't remember Dennis Hopper dying at all.
Sure.
I guess I wasn't really paying attention.
If you really look at his life, it's surprising that he lived till 2010.
I guess I didn't realize, was Dennis Hopper kind of a drug-addled maniac or something?
He did some drugs. I mean,
a few drugs.
You saw the story of his life, Blue Velvet, right?
I only managed to watch about a quarter of Really, that's Dennis Hopper's biopic.
It's his biopic.
Directed by David Lynch. And what Kyle MacLachlan just accidentally wandered in on one of Dennis Hopper's bad nights. Oh, that movie is it made me so uncomfortable.
Well, yeah,
and I was watching it by myself. Like most of the times when I get really uncomfortable with a movie, it's either because there's some sort of awkward social situation going on, and like I get uncomfortable and like it's like because I picture myself being awkward and stupid. In a social situation, and I empathize with it too hard.
Sure.
But most of the time when I get like squeamish about movies, it's usually for the sake of someone I'm watching it with.
Sure.
Just be like, this I don't want to watch this with you. This is weird. But that made me so uncomfortable when I was watching it by myself, I had to turn it off. Blue Velvet does have a reputation for being a not a movie for squeamish people.
No.
And like I had no problem with, like I'm not super well versed in David Lynch stuff, but like I had no problem with any of Twin Peaks. I watched all the new season of Twin Peaks, which was really weird, and like Firewalk with Me and stuff was fine. That stuff was all fine by me.
Mulholland Drive, did you watch that at all?
I have not seen.
No,
that's I think Firewalk with Me is the only David Lynch movie I've.
You haven't seen Dune?
No, I have not seen Dune. I honestly I should just because it's one of his movies. You got to be honest though. Yeah. Dune is probably David Lynch's worst movie, isn't it?
His worst? No, it's actually It's a good movie.
Well, I haven't seen Inland Empire. People don't really like Inland Empire. But like I really need to watch Eraserhead. Is the thing?
Yeah. Yes, you do.
And it's
just once. Watch it once.
I've seen a lot of clips from it too, where and like some of the worst and freakiest parts of the movie. And it was like, wow, that's gross and freaky, but I can stomach that. But like it was in Blue Velvet. Spoiler alerts. It's the sexual violence of the movie that made me very uncomfortable.
Daddy wants to fuck.
God.
Yeah.
He said it even creepier than that is the thing.
Yes, he did.
As Dennis Hopper's line, and about 2 minutes after that is when I turned it off.
I'm done. It's over.
I'm done with this. It's like I don't want to know what happens to poor now I can't remember her name. She's in all of David Lynch's movies after Blue Velvet. She's in Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah.
Laura Dern.
Laura Dern, yeah.
I don't want to know what happens to Laura Dern in this movie after that happened to this other poor woman.
Dern.
Yeah. She was in the new, I guess it's a mild spoiler. She's in the new season of Twin Peaks.
Because I haven't seen the new season.
You really should. And like I told you earlier off the podcast when we were discussing, I don't really think you need to rewatch the
it's
original
only 2
run.
seasons. I could.
You could easily, and just remember when you're watching season 2, skip everything that has James in it after he leaves town.
Okay.
After James leaves Twin Peaks, you can skip past every scene that he's in because they are utterly inconsequential and really boring and dumb. Like I don't mind James as a character, but he is the most blatant soap opera caricature, I think, because that was a lot of like the townspeople of Twin Peaks were supposed to be soap opera caricatures.
Sure.
And James is one of the most obvious ones, so that can make him a little insufferable at times, and especially when he is no longer with all these other characters that you actually give a shit about.
Sure.
It's just I can't stand it. He appears in season 3, and I like all of his scenes in season 3, but he's much older, and different things happen. But yeah, it's Twin Peaks: The Return is good. We're getting distracted because someone with a very loud vehicle outside is just letting it idle. It's probably, I can't remember whose vehicle that would be. It might be the Charger that's always on the corner, or maybe it's a Challenger.
It sounds a little bit.
It's not quite throaty enough.
Yeah, it's not throaty enough to be
a muscle car, but yeah, there's a guy out here who has an oil field truck, has a big diesel, And one time it was, I think it was 1:10 in the morning, and he let it idle for about a half hour before he left for whatever oil field thing he had to do in the middle of the night.
Thank you, sir.
It's like, thanks, dude. And I had one of my buddies is a diesel mechanic, so I was like, how long do you have to let diesel trucks, like pickup trucks, how long do you have to let them heat up? And he's like, probably about 5 minutes in this weather. It's not that cold.
Right.
And, you know, it's probably, you could let it go for a little while, assuming you didn't have, like, glow plugs or something on.
Well, if it's a diesel, then, yeah, you would.
And it idled for, like, a half hour, and I was getting so fucking furious. I didn't know. I guess I could have gone outside, looked at the post in front of the truck, and then gone to that guy's room and be like, hey, get the fuck going.
You're late.
You're late. Go to work already. I'm trying to fucking sleep because I have a normal job.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then speaking of job, that was a fun thing this morning. That was awesome.
Yeah.
The internet and the phone were gone.
You didn't say anything about that to me. I learned that from one of our other coworkers who I called on the phone.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, your phones are working." I was like, "Were they not?" It's like, "Yeah, they were. Like your internet and your phones turned off this morning." It was like OJ had to deal with it by himself. It was like, he didn't say shit to me.
Well, no. Well, I hardly said shit to anybody. People kept coming to me and saying, "Hey, let's fix this and do this. What are you going to do?" I was like, I can't because I'm doing a show. I'm doing a one-man morning show with all by myself. No internet, no information, no prep work, no news, no weather. Yeah, it's all on my phone, and hopefully my phone stays charged.
Yeah. You had to do it real old school, except for the phone, because even back in the day, you had an AP wire or fucking something.
Yeah, something in the back room, but
and you could pull it out of the printer and be like, "What's this newest thing?" Okay,
this
here we
just
go.
in.
This just in. We've received over the AP wire that President Kennedy has been assassinated in Dallas, Texas. We will report more news when we get it.
You make it sound like I've been a broadcaster since the early 60s.
What?
You haven't? What?
What?
What do you mean? What do you mean? What?
Can you repeat what you said to me?
You said that I'm reporting that Kennedy just died.
Yeah.
That would have been 1962.
That was the joke.
I'm not that old, man.
I know. I wasn't saying that it was you. I was just saying that. Oh, whatever.
Yeah, Dan Rather and I got started in the biz together.
What, you weren't there? You didn't when you were in TV, you weren't working with Cronkite? I thought everybody worked with Cronkite at least once.
Attention, Mr. and Mrs. America and all ships at sea. It's just in. John F. Kennedy is still dead.
That's not what you were doing when you first started out? That's not how they instructed you to talk at broadcast school?
Yes, it is.
This is standard American English. Kind of derived from the accent you already have, but
a little bit
less Norwegian. That's basically what standard American was, is a Midwestern accent, but you strip out some of the foreign influence.
Sure, and add a slight touch of British in there.
Yeah,
just a tinge.
Yep. It's a very. You take out the German and Norwegian influences, and you have a very neutral sounding American accent.
Yes.
But, anyway, something I've got coming up. I'm going to a wedding.
Are you?
On Saturday.
Who's getting married?
A friend of mine from high school,
really?
Who I was in speech with. We did a lot of stuff together. We went to nationals together twice.
He's not in high school anymore.
He is not in high school anymore.
Right.
No, he is a year older than me. In
really?
fact. And he's out in Fargo doing like ad PR type stuff. He's sort of in the broadcast realm. I know he does, like, he's more of on like the TV commercials side, as far as I know.
Yeah.
With some like graphic design stuff thrown in there and whatnot. Guitar player, good singer. He's very, very talented guy. And so he's getting married on Saturday, and I'm going to be leaving town on Friday afternoon after work.
In Fargo?
Yeah, he's getting married in Fargo, so heading all the way out there and gonna do stuff.
Nice. You're gonna Fargo it up for a weekend.
Gonna Fargo it up for a little bit. Yep. Some other things I listened to a little bit because I had forgotten that it came out. There's a new Thy Art Is Murder album out that came out like a month and a half ago, and I'd forgotten that happened. So I decided to give it a little bit of a listen, and it seemed like it was pretty good. I've always really liked C.J. McCreery's vocals, and they sound really fantastic on this record. So
They sound really fantastic.
C.J. McCreery. C.J. McCreery, not God damn it. Now I'm having trouble talking in the English language. Perhaps I should talk like this. It seems to help me enunciate the words I'm saying.
I dare you. I dare you to do
I'm going to do the whole podcast like this.
A whole country music show.
I'll do it. I'm gonna do my my Halloween broadcast like that. You know what day of the week Halloween is on this year?
I don't.
I hope it falls on a work day.
On
almost,
a work day?
Because that gives me an excuse to do fun, silly voices.
Yes, it does.
I want to do my entire broadcast as Dracula.
Blah.
Blah. You're listening to 102.9
WJO. Thursday.
It's on a Thursday, so yeah, I can do that. But I've always liked C.J. McCreery's vocals. Not related to country singer Scotty McCreery.
Not at all.
Thy Art Is Murder is from Australia. And I've generally enjoyed most of their work. I'm not the biggest fan of theirs, but they're a pretty good band, pretty popular, and they do good stuff. They just haven't always been like a band I've been super into. So when we get out of non-metal month, that's one of the albums on the list, other than the Battle of Yaldabaoth.
Yes.
Yeah, Yaldabaoth.
Yaldabaoth.
From Infant Annihilator, which I still haven't listened to all of.
Really?
It's just I'm kind of putting it off. I don't know.
It's not because you don't like it. It's just because it's.
I'm hoping that I will like it, but right now it just, for some reason, it just kind of feels like it's more.
It's more of the same.
Yeah, and like I did get to a point where I was like, finally, they're doing something different. There was like a different guitar sound, a different guitar tone than the like super processed like phaser type stuff that they usually do for like solos. And like, have you ever listened to Rings of Saturn at all?
I haven't really given it a listen. No.
Super like sci-fi sounding guitars.
Sure.
Like really, really, really digitized, and they use a lot of that sort of sound, and then just the general like really low deathcore distortion, and that's most of the guitar sounds. And then they get to this part where there's this like solo that has this different, more melodic sort of sound to it, and I was like, yes, finally something that sounds different, because I've had 3 7-minute songs pass me by that sounded the same for the whole thing, and like. Dickie, I think Dickie Allen is a very talented vocalist, but he uses too little of his range, and there's a particular sound that he uses that he uses too often, in my opinion. Like he really lets the scream sort of like fill his cheeks, and it like is like I can't do it without trying to replicate it, and I'm going to hurt myself if I do that.
Sure.
But it's like sort of this very, I don't have the words to describe exactly how it sounds. Ben Dewar of Shadow of Intent uses that sort of technique every once in a while. Sort of like it reminds me a lot of some of the things Travis Ryan does for Cattle Decapitation.
Okay.
Both Travis Ryan and Ben Dewar use that sound a little bit. Dickie Allen uses that sound almost exclusively, and it gets really old really fast. His vocals are super consistent, but that's part of the problem, is they're very samey. And it doesn't like it. The more I listen to and like re-listen to their last album, it's just like he doesn't sound angry. It just sounds like he's doing it. He's very good at it, but it's like there's no feeling to it.
The real human energy is not there.
Yeah. And like you listen to like Shadow of Intent, and it's like there's a lot of desperation in the voice, and the melodic, like the rough sort of melodic vocals that are in the background really add to that as well. There's none of that on Infant Annihilator. It's just Dickie doing his own thing, and it's like, where's the feeling? Where's the humanity in this? It sounds really artificial. And they're, I don't know. I'm practically doing a review of it right now without having listened to the whole thing, so I'm going to stop.
We'll get there.
We will get back to that in a couple of weeks. First, though, we got to talk about My Bloody Valentine, Loveless. Came out in 1991. This is considered basically like sort of the shoegaze album. Like if you're into shoegaze, this is the best album that came out in the genre.
Sure.
That's probably your opinion anyway. Unless you're a member of a shoegaze band, in which case some of them were like, oh, it's super overrated. But then you've got people like Billy Corgan and the guys from the Cure who are like, this is the best thing I've ever fucking heard.
Sure.
But if you don't know what shoegaze is out there, shoegazing, it's less of a genre and more of an activity in a sense.
Right. It's what they're doing on stage a lot, and a lot of what the listeners are doing as well.
Yeah.
Sort of looking down at their shoes.
And it was coined. I don't remember who necessarily coined the term, but it was in reference to the fact that the musicians, they appear to be just looking down at their shoes the whole performance, but really the reason they're doing that is because in front of them is a huge ass pedal board.
Sure.
And they're constantly pressing buttons on the pedal board with their feet and changing tones and sounds and things that are going on with their guitars.
Right.
There's a whole nother element going on other than them just playing the guitar. They're playing an extra part of that instrument with their feet as well. And it's not quite like, with the piano where you're seated and you've got, the different foot keys and whatnot.
Sure.
However that works.
With the foot pedals.
I can't remember. I don't know what the foot pedals on the piano do.
The damper.
That's
the
right.
Dampeners.
They're dampeners. Okay. But like when you're standing on stage with a guitar, you have to be very sort of precise and economical with how you press your foot pedals because like distortion pedals usually have a fairly big button on them. But there are a bunch of other ones where the buttons are kind of little. They're spread out a little bit on the pedal itself, but the buttons are not very big.
And you're working it with your feet.
Yeah, and it's very easy to accidentally press like all three of them at once. And then I guess if you've got like a wah pedal, that's the whole pedal is one big platform to put your foot on. But that's a very purposeful action of like wow, wow, wow. Are you trying to do a Rage Against the Machine right now?
Wow, wow, wacka, 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 wow, wow, wacka, wow, wow, wacka, 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 wow.
Okay, all right.
Come with me now. Wow, wow. Tom Morello has apparently his ankles probably got a pretty good workout from working that wah pedal.
He's got some well-lubed ankles.
Tom Morello, the only guitarist that has to stretch his ankles before he goes on stage. Yeah, My Bloody Valentine. So now that you know what shoegaze sort of is, it's
music that's hard to make. If you're into this kind of music, you don't make eye contact with people.
It's basically like really sort of spacey, kind of stonery, alternative rock that's not quite psychedelic. Like psychedelic rock was its own thing in the 60s and 70s and whatnot. Shoegaze is sort of a development of that, but put it in the musical climate of rock in the late 80s and 90s into the early 90s. Like that's sort of what's going on. Like newer, younger people trying to go for the same sort of feelings that psychedelic rock was doing earlier. And that's how you get shoegaze, essentially. The band itself, My Bloody Valentine, is from Dublin and England. They're half Irish, half English. The two ladies in the band are English. The two guys in the band are Irish. They got started in. They have an extremely dense Wikipedia page, by the way. And all of this is just the album.
Oh, this is just this album?
7 pages just about the album. And I cut a couple off of the end. It's 7 pages just about the album. So I'm not exactly sure when the band was founded. I think it was mid-'80s, I want to say. And I don't know when their lineup stabilized on the 4 of them. But, words.
It was always Kevin Shields. And,
Kevin Shields. Colm oh boy. Irish name. Colm Coisig? Oh, God.
Sirsig, I think it is.
Sirsig? Yeah, I wouldn't have. It's like Saoirse Ronan.
Yeah.
I would never in a million years guess that is how her first name is pronounced. Ronan's easy. Sure. Saoirse, not so much. Let's see if I have a so yeah, we have Kamal
yeah, sure.
Kevin Shields, Belinda Butcher, and there's a fourth one. The other lady is,
I don't remember off the top of my head.
What's her name?
Laura Dern.
Laura Dern, that's her name. Yes, it is. It's something Googe. Her last name is Googe.
It's
funny.
Is she Dr. Googe?
She's not Dr. Googe. Where's she at? What's her name? Let's find it. Part of the thing that I cut off was the
personnel.
Yeah, the personnel. Simply because it got to be a lot of paper. What was her name? It was Googe.
Debbie Googe.
Debbie Googe.
Yeah.
Sorry, Googe is a very funny last name.
Googe.
Debbie Googe.
Or is it Googie?
Googie? That's even worse. That's even funnier. Googie.
Googie.
Hi, Googie. How are you? That's how I would talk to her.
G is for Googie. That's good enough for me.
Yeah. But yeah, the four of them were the principal members of the band. And as the little that I know about the production of this record, it took a while. Mm-hmm. And
it did.
Cost a lot of money.
A lot of money. From February of 1990 to September of 1991, I believe is.
And that was all studio time.
Yeah.
That wasn't, we started writing earlier this year and we've got a lot ready, so now we're going to go into the studio for a couple of weeks. No, that was the whole time in the studio.
A year and a half.
Which is just insane to me.
Sure.
To think about, especially a band that My Bloody Valentine had, a reputation at the time, and it's not like shoegaze was a super big genre that was really oversaturated or anything. You had, you could maybe get a record studio to take a chance and let you spend a lot of time in the studio. But when I think about that and then compare it to like a death metal band that has 48 hours in the studio.
I've been there.
And that's all the time and money that they have. And they have to squeeze as much quality out of that 48 hours as humanly possible and then put everything in the hands of the engineer.
You end up with songs like You Suffer. Yeah.
I have to wonder, how much of grindcore was born out of simply the bands not having enough money to record longer songs.
We gotta cut out the bridge and the leads and most of the music and the chorus.
We've only got room for this one riff, and even then we can only do it for about 2 seconds. And the thing about the weird thing though about a lot of grindcore records is, the songs might only be 30 seconds, but there's
70 of them.
There's 70 of them, so you still end up with like a 40-minute record. That's just the weird way that grindcore works. It's like, What's your favorite grindcore song? I have no idea. I've only heard it once, and I've
listened to that album 14 times.
And I'm still not sure if I've gotten all of them in. Grindcore's a weird album.
It's a weird album?
Weird album. Grindcore's my favorite album by the band Metal.
It's a weird genre. And by the way, somebody showed me a clip. It's a minute and 5 seconds of Alex Trebek just saying the word genre. That's all it is. For over a minute, just Alex Trebek going, and he says it as French as he can. Genre.
Was it just like cut together clips of him on Jeopardy saying
it was cut together Jeopardy.
They should do it's sort of like Jeopardy, but it's genre-ty. Speaking of Alex Trebek, did you hear that his pancreatic cancer is back and worse?
That makes me unhappy.
After it was only a couple of weeks ago where it was like, doing all right. Well, I don't think he said I'm doing all right. He said we're filming another season of Jeopardy.
Right.
And people were like, oh, he must be doing great. But stage, was it 4 pancreatic cancer? Is
stage
not
4.
something that you end up doing great with.
No,
usually.
That's not. It's not the kind of cancer you get away from.
Yeah, it's one of the worst ones. But
Yeah.
let's glide out of
My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah, and glide back into My Bloody Valentine.
There's so many layers on this.
Oh God, yeah.
Such layered music.
So the basic structure of a My Bloody Valentine song is, if you take it layer by layer, is and also increasing volume in the mix.
Right.
Down on the bottom, you've got drums.
Yeah.
Which is not usually how you structure a rock song.
No.
Drums are not usually the lowest on the mix. But here they're kind of a little difficult to make out at times.
Yeah.
You can usually hear the kick drum, but it's like, was that a snare? Was it something else? Where are the drums at here? Then just above that, you've got vocals. Vocals, and that's also the biggest difference between drums and vocals.
Sure.
Drums are sort of way down, then you go up a ways and you've got vocals.
The vocals are kind of right here.
They're they're understated. They're pretty.
Yeah.
But they're understated. Very well sung, very beautiful, sort of ethereal vocals, both from the ladies and the guys. Very nice sounding. Above the vocals, you've got bass. Provides a nice, even, warm fuzz through the whole thing. Very fuzzy, very warm, very textured bass. And I like that. I love fuzzy, warm bass. Then above that, you've got...
like keyboard sort of stuff.
Yeah, kind of keyboard, synth, samples, the electronic elements are above that. That's providing most of your melody, is the electronic elements. Besides the vocals, of course, providing the melody, is the electronic elements of the band. And then above that, you've got wonderful guitars that are also so very noisy. A lot of acoustic guitars played at the same time as a very, very noisy electric guitar that is providing a lot of different textures.
Right. And some of it's just not played in a traditional way. I mean,
some of it's not tuned at all.
Right.
It's not in tune at all. It's very dissonant, and it's to the record's favor.
Right, and like in the song "To Hear Knows When," I mean, it sounds like 4.5 minutes of maybe they were recording this in front of a jet engine.
Yeah. It certainly. And normally, when you're thinking like very atonal music, you're thinking of like, some very avant-garde metal or something like Obscura by Gorguts. Sure. Like an extremely atonal album. Very, very dissonant. This, on the other hand, is very pleasant. Yeah. This is pretty easy to listen to. It's a little weird. It's a little spacey. Right. But it's very easy to sit down and listen to. I found myself, I only started listening to it this morning, and I've listened to it 3 times. It's really easy. It's a easy album to slip into.
And the songs stick in your head.
Yeah, I've got the melody of my favorite song in the album just kind of repeating over and over again. I really like the song "I Only Said." Oh yeah. I've got that main little electronic sort of slidey thing just on repeat in my brain right now. A quick note about the band also: after this album came out, they went on a tour with what little money was left that the that the record label was willing to give them, because this was an extremely expensive album to make. Yes, they got a very good album out of it, and it was an album that was very well received. But the record label was like, "This is not really an album we're going to make our money back on." Sure, their producer was not happy with them whatsoever, because they were like, "If we keep these guys on, they're going to pull this shit again." There's no way we can stop them from doing that either. They're going to, so they were sort of left in a very difficult spot of we either get rid of these guys and we get nothing else from them, or we keep them on and we have to spend a shitload more money. What do we do? Well, eventually the record label got bought by Sony, so they didn't really have to worry about that. But so they managed to send the band out on tour, and the tour while the album was extremely well reviewed, the tour was not.
This didn't translate well to the stage.
Mostly, I think, by the band's own efforts, because they seemed hell-bent on making the concerts as uncomfortable for the audience as possible. They would start the show with like 3 to 4 minutes of basically torture by turning everything up as loud as humanly possible. They'd turn it up to 11. Literally, maybe. I don't know if their things had a knob that goes up to 11, like on Spinal Tap.
Sure.
This one goes up to 11, mate. But they would get everything as loud as possible. And like they were once, I think they were accused of like criminal negligence.
Really?
At certain points, like people, developing tinnitus and like losing hearing temporarily and shit. Because they just apparently wanted to torture their audiences. I don't know.
They wanted an experience the audience would never forget.
Yeah. They'll never forget it because it's the last thing they ever experienced.
It's the last thing they ever heard.
Before their eardrums burst and they started bleeding to death from their ears. There was one guy, it's definitely a hyperbole, but I can see something to this effect happening. It says, I was at the show and I sat down with a pint of beer, and as soon as they hit the first note, my pint of beer went flying across the room. I can see, at the very least, if it was a very full pint, losing a bit of that beer. I don't know about it going flying. You'd have to, I think, be right in front of the speaker in order for that to happen. Like, I've stood in front of the speakers directly in front of the speakers at a Carnifex show before. I had earplugs in, but I could feel from the bottom. The bulk of the speaker, I just got kind of the rumble of the guitar, but the bottom seemed to be where like the kick drum came out. Maybe the subwoofer was down there.
It's like a wind.
Yeah, it was like, and I could feel it hitting the loose parts of my jeans.
Yeah,
just pop, 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 pop every time. And it's a Carnifex song, so that happened a lot of times a second.
Yeah.
But like I cannot imagine, how loud this was. Sun goes for that sort of sound at their shows, but that's part of the experience, as far as I know.
And they're not trying to hurt anybody.
Yeah, and a lot of doom metal bands go for extremely loud and extremely noisy shows. Yeah, the tour was not very well reviewed, even though the album has been massively influential, and a lot of people in the shoegaze genre, as much of one as there still is, are like, yeah, Loveless is great. One of the on the reception section and like the legacy, the record producer is the one that says, yeah, it's just like people are talking about Loveless as if it's Beethoven's 7th or 8th. This is just a guy who took 3 years to make an album. It's fucking overrated. He said that in 2014. It had been 23 years and he was still bitter.
He's still stinging.
He's still fucking bitter over the amount of money his company spent.
The amount of time.
On his watch! But yeah, so when did you discover My Bloody Valentine and Loveless? Was this when this album came out that someone was like, hey?
No, actually, this is when I first started in broadcasting. It was at a period of my life where I was listening to just about exclusively metal.
Okay.
And a friend of mine working in TV actually, he said, "Hey, I listened to all this weird, crazy shit, and I really enjoy this album." So it had been about 1997.
Okay, so a ways on from when it came out.
So he said, "Hey, you got to listen to this." I'm like, "What the fuck is this?
This shit.
This is great.
This is weird, but it's not metal.
Yeah.
I like it." Nice. Yeah.
So that's where I was with this, and I think I think I actually downloaded it all on Kazaa.
Oh my! I don't even know that one.
Kazaa?
I don't know Kazaa. I mean, I know about LimeWire. I don't know about Kazaa.
Kazaa was sort of a predecessor to LimeWire.
Okay.
It was like LimeWire, only with more viruses.
With more viruses.
Yeah.
Wow. My.
Yeah, you could download.
So it's only viruses, and occasionally you'll get a song.
Sure. Yeah. You could watch all the downloads at the same time. And that's going to have a virus in it. That's a great song. Going to have a virus in it. That's explicit pornography. That's going to have a virus in it.
What was the sound quality like downloading songs off the internet in 1997?
It was not good. I mean, it was hit and miss. It was really a mixed bag.
You were also probably listening to the music off of 1997 desktop computer speakers.
Yeah,
so
sure.
That either it continues to be a detriment to the music, or kind of like watching a VHS on a CRT, it hides some of the worst things and actually makes it look better in a way.
Sure, but if you watch a VHS
if you watch a Blu-ray version made from the original print of that film on a HD TV, it will look way worse.
On a 4K.
Yeah, like you can watch some like old like B movies or something that you would have originally watched on VHS, and if you watch a Blu-ray release of that on an HD TV, it's like, wow, this looks way worse.
Looks terrible.
This looks way worse than I remember. It wasn't meant to be seen in super high definition.
I've actually dug out a few of my old VHS movies and watched them over the last few years. I don't think we still have a VHS player at the house, but
okay.
But yeah, it's one of those things where you're squinting a lot.
Yeah. Like, how did I ever watch any of this? I suppose spending years in storage or whatever, the cellulose must degrade a little bit.
Sure. It does.
The only thing that we ever seem to dig up to watch out of our VHS collection is Iron Giant.
Sure.
And I think that might have been something that we recorded off of the TV.
I have a few of those.
We did that a lot. I didn't know that was illegal for a long time.
Turns out it is. But
And it was just
they
a
won't
thing
come after
that,
you
yeah,
for it.
yeah, it was just the thing we did. And then it was like, oh, hey, that's illegal, isn't it? We did that a lot. But yeah, I think we did that with the Iron Giant. We did that with Titan AE and stuff. Did you ever watch Titan AE?
Oh, of course.
I really liked that one as a kid because the main character's name was Kale.
Sure.
I really like that one now because I still think it's a pretty good movie. It's sort of weirdly out of place, late 90s, early 2000s alt rock soundtrack.
Oh yeah, it's dated. It's terribly dated.
It's the soundtrack is done by Lit. Like, come on.
Is My Own Worst Enemy on there? Is it?
I don't think so. Maybe. It might be, actually. I don't think so. I can't picture any of the scenes from Titan AE with that opening riff playing. Sure. So I don't know. But yeah.
Wow.
I like Titan AE. I like Iron Giant more.
Oh, sure.
Iron Giant's a fantastic movie.
I am not a gun.
The Iron Giant is a surefire way. It's like, hey, do you want to make Kale cry? Show him one of the last scenes from the Iron Giant. Show him the sacrifice scene from the Iron Giant. Stop. That's a surefire way to get me going. Short of showing me the last scene of Marley and Me. That fucking destroys me too. But yeah,
if it helps if you're watching the Iron Giant to picture Vin Diesel in pitch black.
No, I see. What I was thinking is picture Vin Diesel dressed as the Tin Man. He's just a very large Tin Man.
Yeah,
that's what I think, and it's wonderful. What is it with Vin Diesel and playing he went from Iron Giant, and then he did like the Riddick movies and stuff, and
now he's Groot.
And now he's Groot. It's kind of his career's kind of come full circle.
Sure.
Although I guess there was Return of Xander Cage last year, movie, the most anticipated movie of 2005.
I did not see. I have not seen any of the Triple X movies.
Really?
I've never seen a Triple X movie.
I mean,
I've seen.
I can say
some Triple X movies.
I can say there are recollections I have of the first movie because I haven't seen the second one. I have some positive recollections of the first movie.
Have you seen the Ice Cube one?
No. State of the Union. I've
Right.
not seen that one. But I've seen the first movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I watched it at least like 5 times when I was younger. And I remember it somewhat fondly. But definitely I think Vin Diesel's better movies are the Riddick movies.
Sure.
I haven't seen the most recent one, though. But like
Really?
Pitch Black and Chronicles of Riddick are both, I think, very underrated movies. I think people think Pitch Black. People think of Pitch Black more often as like, this is a really solid, really tight movie, and then like Chronicles of Riddick is all right, but it's it's a little sloppy and weird. It's like, I love Chronicles of Riddick.
And then what was the other one just called Riddick, wasn't it, or something?
Yeah,
like that?
the most recent one with Kira I almost said
Kira Sedgwick.
Yeah, I almost said Kira Sedgwick. No, Kate
Blanchett.
No,
Mara. No, Kate.
from Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, and
Katie Sackhoff.
Katie Sackhoff.
Yeah,
For
there's
some
a K and an S.
I think of her for some reason from Longmire, but yeah,
Because that's the one you've watched most recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always forget Katie Sackhoff was on Longmire too.
Yeah.
So Loveless by My Bloody Valentine.
Love it when we do this.
Yeah. Hey, we have fun here.
Yeah, we do.
We have a lot of fun here, but now it's time to get serious and ask a question. Does this album slap?
It doesn't slap. There's no slapping going on here.
Yeah, I think I was going to say we might go all month without an album that slaps, but I think you might be surprised with next week.
Okay.
I think there's some bangers coming up next week.
And MASH?
Some bangers and some MASH and Tango and Cash.
Okay, all
We're
right.
going to watch Tango and Cash. I should actually look at the calendar. I'm wondering if we finagle it, if we might end up with 5.
No, I don't think we end up with 5, no.
No, we won't. Yeah,
No.
You're right. Because that's what happened in March, is we sort of ended up with a 5-episode month where we could squeeze in the movie episode.
Right.
Yeah. No slap on this album.
No, I mean, and it doesn't intend to. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not the sort of thing.
This album does not mean to be a banger.
Right.
This is a slow sort of. I mean, it's not super slow, but it's just a pleasant kind of trippy walk through. I imagine it's like. I think because it's 2 guys and 2 girls, I said it's like ABBA on acid, a little bit.
Okay.
And it's also I got reminded a lot of the slower songs from Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness.
All right.
Like a lot, and to be fair, Smashing Pumpkins is very shoegaze adjacent.
Adjacent. It's not shoegaze,
Yeah.
but it is a shoegaze adjacent.
They're very sort of heavily associated with that scene, I think. And Billy Corgan has spoke out and said that Loveless is one of his favorite albums. And yeah, I there was a lot on here that reminded me of like Tonight or 1979. There was a lot that reminded me.
You
of
ever
that.
listened to Siamese Dream all the
No,
way through?
I have not.
Oh man,
I need to like get more up on my Smashing Pumpkins discography, just because I know like the popular ones.
right?
That's like I know their popular singles, Bullet with Butterfly Wings, 1979, Tonight. That sort of like I know those.
So yeah, wow.
Because I've been alive.
So like Today, you're not aware of, or
Not so much.
really?
I need to get into it.
Yeah, that it's, a lot of people that I've talked to as far as Smashing Pumpkins go, Siamese Dream is their favorite one.
Okay, yeah. Commercially,
Yeah.
Melancholy is the one that did the best for them and sort of propelled them further. But I'd be interested to get into that sometime.
All right.
You must be very hungry.
Why?
I can hear your stomach through the microphone.
You know what? It's funny. I had I'm digesting a whole bunch of Hawaiian pizza.
Okay.
What is your take, by the way? Would you eat Hawaiian pizza?
I don't think so.
No. Oh, okay.
I've had
You've had penis on pizza?
I was going to say pineapple. I was combining pizza and pineapple. I've had pizza.
Pineapple.
It's like a baby's arm holding an apple. Of course, I've had pizza. I've had pineapple. I like both of them.
Yeah.
But I don't.
See, I enjoy the salty sweet combination.
I guess it's just for me.
Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people think it's an abomination, but I stand by it.
My problem is pizza is already usually so greasy.
Sure.
The pineapple is baked on, I imagine. Sure. But like when I think of pineapple, it's, I don't want to think of like dried baked pineapple, you know?
Well, it's not. It's usually pretty juicy. Still,
that makes it worse to me. Like I don't want the juice mixing with like the sauce.
So how are you with like kebabs with pineapple on them?
Probably okay because you can make those separate pieces. Those are separate bites.
All right,
you know. Like and I like pineapple on its own.
Or like stir fry with pineapple in it.
The most no, not really. No. Stir fry is not really my thing.
Oh yeah, I suppose.
The most adventurous I will get with pizza is like a taco pizza. Mostly when it comes to pizza toppings for me, it's meats.
You like meats? It's meats. It's meats.
It's the meats.
Wow, that was almost a sample right there. It's meats. It's meats. It's meats.
Get to work on it, folks.
All right, there you go.
So, I should mention the score that this album received. It got very positive reviews at the time that it came out.
Sure.
A lot of people were saying this is the best shoegaze album that has ever come out and ever will. And they were kind of right because shoegaze sort of died after this. Yeah. And post-rock kind of took its place. The overall score, the average of all the ones that I found listed on their Wikipedia page, I didn't have to dig, thankfully, and there was a lot listed because this is a sort of legendary album. 92.5.
Wow.
There were a bunch of hundreds. I think the lowest ones on there were 80s, 4 out of 5s.
Wow.
So very, very well regarded album, and like I said, it has had a lasting legacy for a lot of people that sort of go into the sort of ambient kind of alternative rock scene. It's had a lasting legacy with those folks.
And occasionally, just out of the blue, one of the songs off of this will pop into my head for no reason.
That's the mark of a good album, I think, is like when you think of it for no reason, especially it's the mark of a good album when the songs are not necessarily catchy. These are poppy songs, but it's not like, this isn't Katy Perry or something.
No, it's not.
This is still a sort of a weird and kind of progressive, sort of strange little thing that is beautiful and awesome, but it's not like an earworm.
No.
But the fact that your brain will just be like, hey, remember this? Like that's, I think, the mark of something that's quality is when you think of it entirely unprompted, just like, oh yeah, I like that. Speaking of things we like, what's your favorite song?
Sometimes I think it's my favorite song on here.
I think I would need to. Most of the time I spent listening, I was not looking at song titles, which, like both of us, we've talked about how it's hard for us to do that.
Right.
We just
we're busy.
Yeah, we're busy, or we get too into the experience and we're not like checking what exactly it is we're listening to.
Right.
But I picked I Only Said because it was the ones like the melody I could immediately recall. On that sort of kind of wah pedal sort of thing. It's weird. It's this sort of gliding synth melody that it has faded now. I can't. I've also had 3 beers in between now and then. 'Cause I had one before you showed up.
Right.
But speaking of beers, I got us Shiner Light Blonde.
Shiner Light Blonde.
Because I'm a big fan of Shiner Bock beers. Made at the Spalzel Brewing Company in Shiner, Texas. I really like Shiner beers. I enjoy their Bock, which is a darker beer. It's not like it's a stout or anything. It's like a dark. Well, it's a Bock, so it's a dark but light beer.
It has slight undertones of caramel and things like that in there, but it doesn't punch you in the face with.
Yeah, it's dark in color, light in flavor.
Yeah,
I like to think of it that way, and it's I enjoy that because it's not as much of a meal as like
like an oatmeal stout.
Yeah, or like European dark ales. Oh, sure. Or you like a Scottish ale. That's thick and very heavy with the flavor. It's not as creamy as like a Guinness or something. But
the cream stout from the Boston Brewing Company. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I've had that one, but so I went with a light blonde just because I wanted. It's been a long time since I've had a light beer, blonde? And it's like, hey. But I enjoy Shiner quite a bit, and so I was like, hey, I like their stuff. I'll probably like this too, and it's a good light beer.
It is.
It's fine.
Enjoy it. The mark of a good beer.
The mark of a good beer. It makes Kale belch. I don't think it needs to be good to make me belch.
No, I think they all kind of do. Oof. All right. So, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I'm gonna make you go first. You brought it.
It's a gold in my book.
I kind of have to agree with you, both on its legacy and the fact that I've listened to it 3 times today.
Sure.
Like the legacy obviously would indicate, yeah, this is a gold. This is like a legendary album, very well reviewed at the time and well remembered today. And like I said, I've listened to it 3 times since this morning, so there's something to it, and it's very enjoyable. Every time I sit down and start listening to it, that it opens up. It's like, all right, I can keep on listening to this.
Sure.
It's something that rewards you for paying attention to it, but it's not something that demands that you pay attention to it necessarily. You can space out a little bit, and I think that's a fine way to experience it. There are some albums where I'd be like, no, pay attention to this bullshit, but this isn't necessarily one of them. It's like I would forgive someone and be like, hey, I put this album on, and you should listen to it. I was like, yeah, I kind of spaced out while I was listening to it. I was like, yeah, that's sort of what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And it's very good for that. And when you do pay attention, though, there's a lot to really appreciate and dig into. At least all of that work in the studio. Well, I don't know if it was all work in the studio. At least all of that time in the studio meant something.
Right.
I believe one of the quotes I saw for the amount of money that was spent, or at least given to the band in the recording period, was somewhere around like $200,000 and change.
Really?
I think the number I saw was 220. I want to say.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous, but I think members of the band have said. I think Kevin Shields said that a lot of that was just money that was given to the band, essentially as like salary, as like living money, and that the actual recording of the album did not cost nearly that much. But they did spend like a year in the studio, so I don't know. That's why you have a member of the band that is your engineer and has their own studio, and then recording is free almost.
Almost. And can still take forever.
Other than lost work, I guess, because if they have their own studio, they're probably an engineer for other people as well. And time that they spend recording you is time they're not spending recording somebody who's paying them.
Yeah. My sister does that now.
Oh, okay. Sister's an audio engineer.
And, yeah. She got her first client. Her first client was someone called Daisy Blue. And I went, oh, that's you.
Hey.
Yeah.
You got to start somewhere. You might as well start on yourself. Is that what? Is that a masturbation joke?
Yeah, it might be.
I feel like there's a masturbation joke in there somewhere. That's the descriptor of this podcast. I feel like there's a masturbation joke in there somewhere.
It's vague. It's there, but it's...
All right. So, yeah, that was Loveless by My Bloody Valentine. Fun album. Good album.
Indeed.
I enjoy it quite a bit. Next week, going to be talking about Listener's most recent album, Being Empty, Being Filled. They are a sort of post-punk, spoken words sort of band.
Okay.
It's hard to nail down exactly what they are. To me, they're awesome. I like them quite a bit. I discovered them 4 years ago now, maybe a little bit longer. And there's a lot of emotion in there, a lot of tension, and I really enjoy the stories that Mr. Dan Smith has to tell. So we'll get to talking about that next week. In the meantime, if you are interested in this sort of thing, you like this sort of thing, check out our Facebook page and check out our account on Twitter. If you follow those, we'll always be posting new links to new episodes. Not much else, but that's all you need, right? You don't need us filling up your feed. If you really like that sort of thing, you can share it with people. Retweet it, share it with people on your Facebook. We'd really appreciate that. On that note, Thank you for listening to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations.